Hi everybody, welcome back to tnoozLIVE at GBTA, presented by BCD Travel. I'm Martin Cowan, Editorial Director for Tnooz. I'm delighted to have secured some time with Kerin McKinnon.
Thank you,
who
Martin.
works for Travel and Transport, which is a travel management company
Correct.
based in the US. But primarily we're here today to talk about the work that you've been doing as part of the GBTA's Government Advisory Committee, which I believe you've been working with for 10 years or so now. I know you're very much focused on the US, but we like to think that we have a global audience on Tnooz, and indeed we do. So I know one of the things that you're particularly focused on at the moment is the FAA Reauthorization bill. So maybe just give an idea to people who might not be too familiar with what it is and why you think it's really important in terms of business travel.
Yes, I'd be glad to. So FAA Reauthorization is the legislative vehicle that funds and creates policy change for the Federal Aviation Administration. So the current status of the authorization is that it expired, then Congress put through a short-term extension, and that's coming to a close in September. So something has to happen. So the current legislation that's being proposed has already passed through the House and is now awaiting a decision in the Senate. And what what we've been trying to do for quite some time, and hopefully this next bill will make this happen. It'll be 5 years of funding for the FAA, the critical piece being Next Gen, which would allow for our antiquated radar system to convert to satellite, right? Makes sense, we use it on our phones, but we still use radar in the air. So if you convert to satellite, you have shorter routes, more direct routes, more efficiencies. You're using less fuel, it's environmentally better, and it's safer. And there's a couple other initiatives that are really important to the business travel community that are also have been inserted in this legislation. Like, we know sometimes it isn't, they kind of stick different legislative notes into different pieces of legislation.
The small print.
Yeah, the small print. And those are two things that we're concerned about. And one, our stance is it's in opposition to people using cell phones on planes. That's something they want not to allow that option. I'm a heavy traveler. I would not want people chatting on the phone for my
So you're saying the
long
bill
flights.
will allow...
Oppose. It'll prevent that, restrict that. That won't be able to happen.
Okay, and that's for voice call or
voice calls, correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then the other piece is, today there's a passenger facility charge, one more fee that's on the ticket, and it's capped. It can't go up beyond a certain point, and this insert into this bill would oppose raising that cap, so keeping it right where it is.
Okay. So
does that make sense?
And how will that affect sort of business travel? Does that just make business travel more expensive?
Exactly, and there is a direct correlation between companies reaching a breaking point where they've just had too many fees, too many add-ons, and the price continues to go up. Some companies will reduce their travel, and we know economically a reduction in business travel has an impact on our economy, so a negative impact.
Okay, so if the GBTA is aware of that, is the US government aware of that as well?
Well, that's what we've worked very hard on Capitol Hill to get that message across, and we do have bipartisan support. I know we're in a chaotic environment in our government today, and there's a lot of division, but a lot of what we've done, GBTA has accomplished, has been through bipartisan initiation. So folks from Congress from both sides of the aisle working together. So TSA PreCheck would be a perfectly good example of something we lobbied for several years and it happened. So we had a collective voice, GBTA, on the Hill repeatedly, and it happened. So
the TSA PreCheck is almost an example that lobbying
it's a great example.
Does work.
When I use it myself, I want to say you're welcome to all the people in the line.
That was me. It was our idea.
On me, but at least I was a little part of it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, is there anything else that you think that the GBTA has been quite successful in that lobbying terms?
I think in general they've been the biggest champion of corporate travel on the Hill, without a doubt. So I think there is one other legislative initiative that we should probably mention. That's called the FASTER Act. And what that wants to address is after 9/11, when there was a TSA, another fee added, but nobody had a problem with that, right? Because we want safety in our airports and on our planes. So the screening and the safety systems that we have in place with TSA, that's very important. But that fee, those funds that fee is going into that were meant to go strictly to airport security and screening, Congress decided to divert some of that money to help pay down the federal deficit. So that's, we don't feel that's a good idea.
So was that
the funds are collected with the understanding they're going to safety and screening in the airports. But they just kind of diverted a little bit of that out to help pay down the deficit.
Yeah, I mean, we had a similar thing in the UK with our passenger duty that was meant to be sort of fed back into the airport infrastructure, but it ended up just trying to... And failing to reduce the deficit.
Yeah.
So,
I think the exciting thing is that despite, again, our political climate today, you know, it does work. We have a voice. Everyone has a voice. And when you come together collectively, like with an organization like this, it matters. You know, we bring in constituents from every country and we hit every single office that we can with our message, and they listen because these are constituents. So it's pretty exciting.
So I mean, is there anything that sort of, you know, that's on your radar related to sort of inbound travel? So sort of people from overseas coming into...
Not that I can think of. Unfortunately, we fundraise for a political action committee for not even Global Business Travel Association. We have to say National Business Travel Association because it's against our regulations to collect any money for any global organization. So if you're going to use those PAC dollars to support legislators who are supporting corporate travel, that money has to go to a national organization. So we just, our former name is NBTA, so the PAC donations go to them. But we certainly have our eye on what's happening around the globe because it influences, right, what happens.
So just looping back to what you said earlier, that FAA Reauthorization bill extension comes to an end
September 30th.
September the 30th. So what?
So we need the Senate.
Ideal world.
In an ideal world, the Senate passes it and we can get this going. This has been. This goes back to Obama signing this many years ago. So things don't get done, and then there's an extension, and so we're really pushing hard for this to get done. In the next 5 years, we'll have something in place.
And what are I mean, you have to sort of fill me in on how that works, but I mean, what are the potential roadblocks in terms of getting it through by the September the 30th? Is it
that
just
political climate I was saying?
Oh, the aforementioned diplomatically.
It's just, as everybody's watching the news, these are chaotic times. And we're in a midterms for elections. Everybody needs to get out and vote, no matter what you're thinking or feeling. I would encourage voting, not just here at GBTA, but get out there and vote for representatives that want to represent you and your interests. But yeah, these are a little bit crazy times, so that can put a hitch in any legislation that's awaiting.
We've got something similar happening in the UK at the moment with a very significant dedeline approaching that is still not yet likely to be met, he says, in a similarly diplomatic way. But listen, Kerin, look, thanks very much for explaining this to us. I mean, it's quite interesting because I know that sort of legislation can be seen as quite dull, but it's not, because it absolutely matters. And just the simple idea of having, you know, air traffic managed by satellite rather than radar.
It's just common sense.
It's common sense, and it just makes sense on so many levels, and it's sort of ironic that you must have to push for that when it's so clearly obvious of benefits to everybody.
And I did, if I could just plug a few things, if there's members here even today that want to get involved, and I would encourage them to do so, because all this is good for our industry, it's good for ourselves, it's good for our companies and for our clients and for our travelers. So get out there and get involved. We have an annual legislative summit, GBTA, every year in the spring, 2 days, 1 day of training and education. The next day, we go up to the Hill in our respective groups. You go with the people from your own state to meet with those, the appropriate offices to talk about business travel and its importance. And every chapter has a government liaison they can contact. There's a legislative action center on the GBTA website. They can go there. They can certainly write or call their legislative representatives on any of these issues, and they're all well defined in the GBTA website. it's important. And then lastly, Shane Downey, who runs government relations for GBTA, has a session tomorrow, and it's called What the Heck is Going On in Washington? And I'm very sad my flight leaves before that, because I would love to see that. It's going to be a great session. I would encourage attendance.
But will he actually let us know what the heck is going on in Washington?
Does anyone know? I don't know. If anyone can do it, Shane Downey can do it.
Okay, no pressure there then, Shane. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, listen, Kerin, thanks very much for your time.
My pleasure.
This is Tnooz Live at GBTA, presented by BCD Travel. I'm Martin Cowan, and I'll be back tomorrow morning. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.